Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining the session. Apologies for this morning's technical errors, but here we are with today's episode, shall we say. There's just a couple of groundkeeping rules. Q&A section is available for everybody. If you want to post your comments or your questions in there, we can answer those as and when. Or maybe keep them all to the end. Quite happy to do whatever's necessary. But the bottom line of today is just to keep everything Chatham House rules. Let us know if there's things that you wish to discuss in further detail after the event. michael.crawford@colliers.com, and get in touch, and we could discuss whatever your challenges or questions or issues are. So without any further ado, the key thing that we're looking at in the market is there are nobody in the assets yet. And is it going to be a mass return back to the office or your asset type or whatever it may be? The answer is we don't know. We suspect not. But with that, what risks, what expectations, what challenges are there out in the market at the moment? And what I want to do is not talk to you about technology solutions as such. I want to tell you about the so what part. I want to discuss with you about what happens next. Once I put this in and once I do this, what does it achieve? Because at the moment, I don't personally see it, and I know a lot of people are asking for help in the market. So when we have this technology and all of these solutions put into place, how do we achieve that? Have we got the desired outcome? And what is the initially, are we just looking at output? Have we actually lined this up, measured, and is it achievable? So at the moment, the paramount measure of progress is that it works, and that's how you can verify and provide the expected results. And I don't see a lot of companies out there doing it. They put a lot of solutions into play, and then they don't see, has it solved a problem? Was there a problem or a challenge in the first place? Was it just because somebody else did it? Has there been this complete capability uplift, and how are they then measuring if that's been successful? How much of that capability has improved based on that? And also discovery phases right at the beginning. So what I'd like to talk about is some of the key areas. People ask me a lot, what should I put in my property? And I say to them, let's revert back to type. You'll notice throughout this presentation that I'm talking about something slightly different to what's on the screen, because we can all read and we all know what it means. But what I want to get across is, how are we going to achieve outcomes rather than outputs? Outputs are something that can be achieved quickly after performing a certain activity, like putting in a piece of software. Real simple. Have you now got visitors coming into your building and using that system? Yes, we have. Right, okay. But the outcome is actually the contract between you, the customer, and the aligned objectives that everybody's agreed and contributed towards as organisational goals, and they're measurable and they're customer centric. So before we start anything else, that is what we want to look at. And when we're looking at the types of solutions and creating user experiences and going out to the market and seeing what tenant engagement app or anything else is out there again at the moment, let's actually think about the outcomes. What percentage of people are going to be using that solution? How are they going to be interacting with that solution? How are they driving adoption? How are we then measuring that? Do we have the in-house capabilities and all of that resource to be able to pump into making this successful? People, the office has kind of become second nature. What we want to look at is the approach, the support, and the culture of how times are changing in that environment. So in our experience at Colliers, whatever the agreed outcomes, we always make it transparent to all the people that we're going to work with how the approach is different, how we're going to achieve those, speaking with the senior stakeholders as well as the tenants, customers in the building, as well as the building managers, the FMs, and all of the relevant people. Help build those relationships so we can support and create mutual trust between the customers and the service providers and the operators. Building that network in order to achieve those desired outcomes again. So at every centre of what we do should be that, whether it be smart, connected, well-being, sustainability, ESG, fundamentally, they are all outputs. Have they achieved whatever it is that you set out to do? And there's some real important statistics out in the market that we need to make sure that we are servicing those. So, visualization. A lot of people will show you a very shiny PR marketing creation that looks fantastic, shows success, but it doesn't show you the obstacles. It doesn't show you the failures. It isn't transparent. It doesn't actually give you a full 360 representation of what the desired service is and how that's going to fit your outcomes. So you can use multiple different techniques here. Go and get a demo of the software, go and try the software, go and put the hardware in situ, go and get 3D rendering images to see what it's going to look like before you put these things together. Have a look and then go to the relevant stakeholders and say, is this what we're discussing? So what we've got to do also is plan together as a group, not just say, what does Mr. Landlord say? What does Mr. Operator say? What does Mr. Customer say? Let's have a shared understanding about the goals and the objectives between all parties. And this needs to be well documented and signed off. So, from outcomes being quantified, we need to make sure that how much effort is being put in by who. We need to make sure that if somebody has got a new solution that's been put in play, who's now managing that? How are they making sure that they have the correct training? Not just, as I always call it, and those who know me, chuck it over the fence and leave it method. There you are, Mr. Customer, there's your solution, it's all installed, happy to sign here. Great, what next? And that is where the majority of the time we see it failing. You've spent a lot of money on this solution. Make sure that you covered all of the operational and the functionality of these things and build on those little small wins. If people aren't comfortable with technology, then put something light in first. Don't go for this whole 360 holistic approach where they're going to have this negative connotation to all of this tech. It's just too much. What you want to do is put something in small, something that's going to make a change to everybody, but they don't really recognize it. And make sure then that what you're building on top of and what you're putting in is future proofed. You want to make sure that every single step of the way, you know how it is affecting your customers. I mean, there are a multitude of ways that we can do things, but ultimately culture is first. So when looking for consultants, customers, third parties to establish kind of this working in a successful way, different job titles, everybody pulling together in this workplace experience, have they actually got those skill sets? Have they actually been trained? Have they been asked to wear another hat, as we all do in business? Have they actually demonstrated how to build partnerships and relationships? Have they got relationships with the suppliers? Has an operator like Colliers actually got proper two-way partnerships where we're constantly striving to improve and not going for a one-size-fits-all method? And what tends to happen then is naturally the outputs are the outcomes. So they align, they create all of the things that you were trying to achieve: productivity, efficiency, mutual respect amongst all parties, as well as, you know, if we put in, prime example, an air quality solution, has it made someone more productive? Don't know, we just put it in. Is it just to awareness or keeping up with the Joneses? For me, that's a really different way of doing things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's really hard to measure. And what we need to be able to do now is work as one team. An outcome-based approach should always be as one team. The risks on the customer end and the supplier end are all around us, and we need to make sure that there's enough transparency and support from all ends to achieve those goals. It's preferable that building healthy relationships will highlight failures and risks and pitfalls and mitigate those much quicker along the cycle, i.e. project management, control of when the things going in, how they're delivered, who's looking after those, what timings, etc. But one thing I will say is, do not be afraid to look at the flexibility in your agreements with your suppliers. The world is changing, as we all know, and all of a sudden things can go right or wrong really unexpectedly. We've all had those, and priorities change. Well, we did that yesterday, now we're doing that today. We've been living that. There's a 7-year leap in 1 year. So the flexibility needs to be built within these contracts, not 3, 5, 7 years. If you're happy with the solution, have a 12-month contract and then just renew. And that's what we at Colliers try to realign and change the priorities based on the customer-centric focus. This means we're going beyond the standard change control. We are putting ourselves out there to explain to people from a data-centric, customer-centric view, shared objectives. I mean, everybody puts around this whole, what's the user experience? What's the user experience? We must get this whole solution that's got all these modules that does absolutely everything. I'll ask the question again, why? Is that actually what anybody wants? Is that have got conflicting thoughts and opinions of everybody? Can we work backwards from there and find out who actually wants to implement these solutions? There are so many pitfalls again. And we touched on it in previous sessions where our technology framework that we put into place before COVID actually didn't tackle all of this COVID world. It did that already. We had quality, reliability, best in class, best commercially. We did all of that due diligence. And it's really hard to know, especially for me and my team, what is right and what is wrong, because there's so much out there. There's 8,000 or 10,000 plus solutions, and there's only going to be more, and they're only going to say they're the best. So have a set process internally, or a team, or a subject matter expert, or come to your operator or your property management provider, because we're learning these skills even more and working and building bigger teams that can be your natural arm. The regular check-ins. There's one thing that doesn't happen at the moment. People, as kind of looking to the future, people do not have consistent review meetings on the technology. We've got processes in Colliers where we now go every 4 weeks with our various teams from surveyors, FMs and everybody else have now got the solutions, the reports, the dashboards to share with our customers, high and low, to make sure that everybody is in the same shall we say, viewpoint, understanding and aligned on the goals. And we can measure that constantly and consistently, as well as fully automate some processes as well where we can. And what we've managed to do is make this cost effective. A lot of customers come to me these days and say, we're trying to create this fantastic experience in our properties. We don't know, we know that we need to do it because that's what everybody's after. That to me is where we can step in. We can add real value. Let's sit down, let's create a healthy relationship of back and forth where other third parties with their solutions, if they want to come and present those, that's fine, but we can help you understand what truly that means, because when you look below the waterline on a lot of these, they're very shallow. Now, we haven't got into data, we haven't got into aggregation of data, we haven't started at all on this journey. You might be doing this with other remits or caveats directing enterprise in the buildings and the properties themselves, or you might have an ERP solution internally, etc. But I'm guessing the majority of people don't have that linked into exactly what they are doing with the new technology. And you've then got to go and get a systems integrator or a third party or more resource, or train up somebody in your team that doesn't understand this already. Really costly, really time consuming. We all know what a Vista management system is. We all know what a room booking system is. We've seen them so much that we're probably sick of them, and we're still none the wiser. What one's shinier than the other? What one gives, this rubber stamp or shiny certificate, as I call it, at the end of it? Is that what we're really worried about? Or do we want the data? Do we want to find out where that data goes, who controls that data, what we do with that data, and how we can sweat the asset? So there's some things to look for out in the way that you do things at the moment. But my key point is be patient. Don't go running to somewhere and think that we're going to put this in and make it a knee-jerk reaction because somebody else did it in their building. That doesn't mean that they have the right way of doing it. Go and see other properties. Go and have a look at where these solutions are in already. At Colliers, we have over 30 to 40 properties over the last few months where we've started implementing all of these types of solutions that do integrate with each other, that do talk, that are on the minimum amount of platforms possible, that can be presented on dashboards if that's what your business requires. We've got to share the vision between all of us, and the fundamental pillars should be flexible enough around us that we can adopt change wherever we need to. It doesn't mean because we've got something already that we can't add something else in and that has to be removed. We have got the expertise in-house from ESG perspectives. So all of the technologies we put in now, actually, as much as we can, report towards other standards, other outcomes. So something we do over here may have, you know, a ripple effect over here. We're trying to identify those at the earliest possible opportunity. So a prime example of, and coming back on point, of output and outcomes and what the difference is. So an example, if we install a visitor management system, the output is that we've delivered the project on time and on budget. That's the output. The outcome is we now know how many people are coming through the door, what type of people are coming through the door, what their experience was when they came through the system or the process, and using that feedback then to make sure that we enhance that customer experience. There's just a prime example of the difference from output to outcome. Same again, if somebody's putting a new app in the building, the output is that the app's been created and yeah, it looks lovely and it does everything that it should do. Okay. The outcome is that we've got customer experience at the core and customer centricity at the core of everything we're doing. We're actually not just putting in an app for the sake of it. We're measuring how are people are interacting with the space. How are people interacting with the local community? What are their thoughts? How are they feeling? There's time to capture that and utilize that. And then what we can do is we can evolve that and set plans and strategies off the back of that data, because that's real. So again, just to cover off some additional points of how we now take our framework forward. Colliers look in a real logical, structured way. And recently, a lot of people have been saying to me, Michael, how do we approach this? And I said to them, right, let's look first of all what it is that you've got already. How much are you paying? What is it that you've got? Can it be integrated? Is it old? Is it a legacy systems? Are you actually using them? Is there something else there that you could be using already to enhance, and you just need some upskilling or training on those solutions because it's been a while or somebody's left and moved on to another business and the software or the solutions just sat there? Is it something that's the look and feel of it that just needs upgrading? But we tend to not have the visualization or the transparency at that stage. We've onboarded a new partner or building or customer and all these things are moving and we don't know. So with that then being done, we can collect all of that information and create a plan with you and actually sit down and say, right, let's have a look at what you spent, where we can potentially save some money out of the service charge or budgets or spend, whilst improving those as well. And then have a clear agenda over the next 12 to 24 months of how you're going to get there, because it just doesn't happen overnight, and align it to your outcomes. What tends to happen as well, as I said, is there's not a lot of companies out there that do kind of the full 360 suite of professional services. And at Colliers, we implement the solutions. We make sure that there's not project creep and scope and everything else moving forward. How are we actually delivering operationally on the ground? Has it been fit correctly? Have we liaised with project managers, etc.? And that makes sure that everything's on time and on budget, as near as damn it. What that also allows us to do is look at the systems integrations, and we've done a lot of the heavy lifting for you as a company. And with our framework, what it's allowed us to do is go to market and come to you really much quicker without having to spend lots of time. Generally, you want a window. Let's take this month as a prime example. You need something in for April, need to test it, book it, get it in, plan, review, everything else, because people are coming back in June. That leaves us 3 months. That's no time at all, bearing in mind that we're not going to be the only people in the queue. There's lots of people wanting this type of stuff, so we've got to plan properly. Now, as I said, the success is all based on, did we achieve the desired outcomes, not just outputs? And we're able to measure that, monitor that on an ongoing basis, not just a snapshot. And there's lots of solutions out there at the moment that we're constantly under review to see how they're maturing and whether or not they're just offering a snapshot over a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, at a price point that, you know, is quite hefty, to be honest. We want to make sure that what we've done from procurement, resourcing, implementation, review has all been successful to achieve those outcomes. So we need to look at things in 2 ways: essentials and desires, needs and wants, as I call it. What do you need, Mr. Customer, to do your job? Not what's nice to have. What do you need in order? What would make you want that space? Let's ask the correct questions. During these review stages, let's go and find out, because otherwise we're just second guessing. Landlords out there, I've got X amount of floors that are vacant at the moment. I need to make sure that the technology that I put in can be measurable and how that's been successful to get more people and the right top talents and companies into my premise, and therefore maintaining certain rates, certain yields and everything else. But you've got to repeat and understand the same process as well. And at the moment, I see too many people trying to have a quick win. Now, the building journey is what we want to say is why you're building. We want to work with you and look at your building as a brand with technology. The technology enables all of it. And this is where I quickly do a little plug with the other members of the team. We've got the head of ESG and sustainability and the head of customer experience, FM, compliance and procurement, that as a team are fantastic. They're one of the best in class in the industry, and they've got some serious knowledge and expertise and experience that will help you achieve what you're trying to set out with your building, or at least define what that is. So Colliers are able to work with you on that. Our technology framework covers 6 core competencies. Some of you have seen this before, but I just wanted to highlight that all of these are overlaying. They all achieve the same building outcome, and they shouldn't be overlooked, and not everybody can do everything at once. And that's part of the challenge, shall we say, and the expertise of Colliers as well. Come and talk to us about the property management, not one size fits all. Our building is unique, our asset is unique. Come and ask us and have a conversation and engage with us, and actually be, you know, give yourself a greater chance of success. So that is really, from me, everything that we need to do. I have got some time at the end of this session if anybody wants to drop me an email or a note, or have some time or book something in the calendar. As I said, it's michael.crawford@colliers.com. I think, you know, it's nice to finish promptly on these things. So if anybody hasn't got any questions, which I don't think there is on this session, then happily just wait a minute, see if there are any, and then we'll just call it there, I think. Okay. Well, I think that's it for today. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you next time, where we'll be discussing some more exciting topics in the industry and proving to you in a logical, sensible manner how we can achieve value for you. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your days.